The Greek philosopher Plato was pretty smart. So was Isaac Newton. You don't agree? Well, Plato mostly asked tough questions and left others to figure out the answers, so he's at least halfway there. Plato was the first person to describe an incredibly important element in the universe. Without this element, most physics in the universe cannot exist. Ether. After Plato, a number of smart scientists who loved space spent decades of their own lives, collective centuries, describing this ether. Isaac Newton used his third book of optics to tell us how objects in space pass through ether and describe the way ether physically carries light. Mathematician Johann II Bernoulli was awarded the prize of the French Academy for his studies of ether in 1736. He and James Clerk Maxwell separately studied ether and found that it was a medium through which light waves propagate through space. Augustin Jean Fresnel developed mathematical models for how light propagates, bends, and diffracts through ether. After pioneering this theory, Fresnel went on to pioneer lens optics, enabling stage and film lights, cameras, movie theater projectors, and lighthouses. Countless sailors owe their lives to him. Newton, in fact, considered ether essential to how gravity of one celestial body impacts other celestial bodies. George Gabriel Stokes concluded that ether was rigid at high frequencies but fluid at lower. Thus, the Earth could move through it, but it could also support light. In other areas of science, Stokes would go on to explain how hemoglobin in the blood facilitates the carrying of oxygen throughout the body. Until 1887, ether was one of the most important elements in the universe. Without it, the models of physics all scientists relied on could not be explained. Thus, scientists spent years defining, measuring, modeling, and describing its characteristics. The scientists who studied ether read like a hall of fame of physicists. Names like Newton, Bernoulli, the other Bernoulli, Huygens, Boyle, Bradley, Young, Fresnel, Cauchy, and Stokes. And then, in 1887, two scientists attempted to measure the speed of light, and through that experiment we discovered ether doesn't exist. At all. The empty space between stars and planets is in fact not filled with a gas, liquid, fluid thing, but is just empty space. And the Physics Hall of Fame doesn't exist, I just made that up. So much for all those intelligent people. Much like ether, intelligence is difficult to describe, define, and model, and in fact, may not even exist at all. What even is intelligence? Is it memory? The ability to know and remember a lot of things. Memory is storage. A person may be able to tell you the particulars of Rembrandt's brushstrokes or mathematical models of gravity, but may not be able to tell you in which state Detroit is located. How would you describe that person's intelligence? If intelligence is memory, how many different things are you required to memorize to be considered intelligent? Can one specialize, know a lot about a few things? Or must you generalize, know a little about a lot of things? Does being intelligent require knowing mathematical models of gravity and the particulars of Rembrandt's brushstrokes and that Detroit is in Michigan? Is intelligence the speed by which one thinks? If Engineer Bob designs a bridge in a day, And Engineer Jane designs a bridge in a week. Does that make Bob the more intelligent person even if Bob's bridge collapses in a few years and Jane's lives forever? Is intelligence the ability to never be wrong? If so, how intelligent is Percival Lowell, the astronomer who mathematically predicted the existence of Pluto decades before anyone could actually see it in a telescope? Although he was right about Pluto, he also insisted that the canyons seen on Mars through telescopes were irrigation canals built by aliens to water their crops. Never mind all those scientists who were lauded for their work on ether. Is intelligence the ability to do math? Well, math is mostly procedure. Plug in the right numbers at the right times and you'll get an output, and you'll get the same output every time. So routine. We've had machines that can do this for us since the mid-1900s. No, wait, actually the mid-1800s, when census counters decided performing the same procedures over and over again was an insult to their intelligence. So they built the Hollerith desk to count the census for them. Over decades, psychologists have invented tests in an attempt to measure intelligence. Do these tests actually work? Or like ether, are we attempting to measure something that can't actually be measured? We can measure memory. We can measure knowledge. We can measure mathematical ability. We can measure thinking speed. We can measure how quickly a person can memorize facts and procedures. But can we actually measure intelligence? Let's say for a moment that we can. Let's also say that based on our measurements, you are not intelligent. How might you get more intelligent? Memorize a trivia book? Learn calculus. Learn sports statistics. Or recite your times tables more quickly? So maybe we need a completely different approach. Throughout history, the people who have been considered the most intelligent have actually been the ones to demonstrate the most creativity. No, I don't mean painting and drawing and music and all of that. That's a part of it, but what I mean is people who can create ideas that are novel and useful. And that is a skill that we can teach you. And that is something you can learn and practice and get better at over time. And that's why I teach it to people. And when I teach it, I say, we are activating your genius mode. So, what is intelligence? We don't know either.